Picture this. A group of teenagers, their eyes glued to their phones, as if those devices were an extension of their very beings. It's like they've been upgraded with bionic attachments that make them superhuman in a digital realm. With a few taps and swipes, they send messages on Snapchat, share stories on Instagram, and video call their friends on FaceTime. They have the power to binge watch their favorite series on Netflix, order a ride on Uber, and have their meals delivered through DoorDash. They curate personalized playlists on Spotify for every mood and occasion, and discover content creators daily on TikTok. Are you feeling dizzy yet? Watching my two children consume media is totally different from my experience growing up. In my teenage TV watching days, I had to plant myself on the couch every Thursday at 8 o'clock sharp to watch Friends. Bathroom breaks and snacks were timed with military precision for commercial breaks. And the suspense of waiting months to find out if Ross and Rachel would finally end up together? Torture. By contrast, my children have total control. They decide what to watch, when to watch, how much to watch. Technology has radically changed how young people interact with information, connect with each other, and navigate the world around them. Given the groundbreaking technological developments taking place in our world, education is at a frustrating standstill. Despite having unprecedented control over their digital experiences, young people find themselves thrown back in time when it comes to school. We're essentially relegating a future generation to be passive recipients of learning, confined to rigid desks, facing a teacher talking at the front of the room for 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. The glaring disconnect between their vibrant lives outside of school and the monotonous days spent in classrooms that operate like network television is a recipe for disaster. It's no surprise that nearly 3/4 of high school students report feeling tired, stressed, and bored at school. Combine that with the record number of teachers leaving this profession, and it is clear. The way we are approaching this work isn't working for teachers or students. The educational system, with its behemoth structure, resists change. It's about as flexible as a brick wall when faced with threats both inside and outside the classroom. Internal threats like diversity of skills, abilities, learning preferences, and multilingual students push the one-size-fits-all lesson to its limits. And external threats like pandemics, AI advancements, and even extreme weather have shone a spotlight on the system's glaring lack of adaptability. It is time we acknowledge education needs a transformation that embraces change, addresses the needs of students and teachers, and leaves behind the inflexible instructional practices of the past. For 23 years, I have dedicated myself to education, wearing multiple hats as a teacher, a coach, professor. I have had the privilege of working in schools worldwide, striving to facilitate student-centered learning with technology integration. Throughout my journey, I've encountered the same problems everywhere. Teachers are working too hard not to be getting better outcomes. And too many students are not engaged or invested in learning. We cannot change the system overnight, but what we can change right now is how we operate within the system. Think of it as a classroom by classroom renovation rather than demolishing the whole educational building. And to make this happen, both teachers and students need a mindset and skill set upgrade to create more effective, empowering, and equitable learning environments. In this high-tech era, we have endless digital delights at our fingertips. Articles, videos, podcasts, simulations are just a click away. Let's let technology's knack for information transfer free us to redirect our focus to what makes us truly extraordinary as teachers: our ability to listen, observe, empathize, respond, and build strong relationships with our students. This is impossible to do when we rely exclusively on the whole group teacher-led model. By teaming up with tech, we can provide the perfect blend of human touch and digital dexterity in the classroom. This creates the time and space for teachers to work directly with small groups and individual students meeting their specific needs. It's a win-win for us and our students. To make this transition happen, we need to pass the baton of control from teacher to learner. I get it. It's a scary idea, especially for us type A control freaks. I mean, who wants to give up control over the curriculum, pacing, classroom management? But you know what? Life has a funny way of teaching us lessons and making us lean on others. I had to learn this the hard way. On a warm night in October 2017, my life changed dramatically. It was 2:30 in the morning when shouts from a megaphone pulled me out of sleep. A police car was driving up our street, blaring a warning. A fire was approaching, and we had to evacuate. In a frantic rush, I scooped up my 2 sleeping children, and we escaped with the clothes on our back and the shoes on our feet. The fire destroyed our home. We lost everything. The days that followed were a haze of just shock and disbelief. I kept thinking, how do I begin to rebuild our shattered lives? I have never been good at asking for or accepting help, but in the wake of the fire's destruction, I knew my family couldn't recover without help. It was time to let our community step in. To my surprise, I discovered people wanted to contribute to our recovery. By leaning on others for support, we were more resilient in the aftermath of the fire. Instead of shouldering the burden alone, it was distributed among many. Teachers also cannot bear the burden of student learning alone. Students must become self-directed learners, setting goals, assessing their work, monitoring their progress, giving feedback, and regularly communicating with their families about their progress. It is unrealistic for a teacher to handle all of these responsibilities alone. And with a classroom full of students, it is simply not sustainable. It also deprives students of cultivating vital skills that will serve them long after they leave school, making them more resilient and versatile in a rapidly changing world. Yet, they won't develop these skills if we don't release control and share the responsibility for learning with them. Being a parent has taught me how important releasing control can be when helping young people develop their skills and competence. Before kids, I loved to cook. I was no Julia child, but cooking was my time to unwind and get creative in the kitchen. And then I had children, and they quite literally sucked the joy of cooking right out of me. Our dining room table became a battlefield of picky eaters and relentless critics. So when my kids turned into teenagers, I devised a brilliant plan. I signed up for a meal service, and I put my 2 teenage chefs in training in charge of selecting and cooking 1 meal each week. I proposed the idea like a seasoned hostage negotiator. I expected groans and resistance, but to my surprise, they were intrigued. With the meal service delivering a box of ingredients and foolproof recipes, our kitchen transformed into a culinary classroom. The morning after my son prepared his first dinner, I received a Snapchat notification. He had posted a photo of the salmon dish he had prepared and captioned it with, "First meal I cooked." His pride was palpable. He wanted to share his accomplishment with his network of friends. It was a rare mommy moment of triumph. This experience got me thinking about the classroom. How often do we inadvertently steal these moments of growth and pride from our students? By doing the lion's share of the work, all the planning, teaching, reviewing, reflecting, assessing, we deny our students opportunities to learn, experience accomplishment, and develop confidence in their abilities. When teachers realize their value isn't in being the expert, but rather in facilitating and architecting student-centered learning experiences, a delightful side effect occurs. Students transform from passive observers to active agents. They become thinkers, debaters, tinkerers, problem solvers, explorers, and collaborators. Students finally start to perceive themselves as learners and capable partners in this educational escapade. And here's why. The person doing the work is the person doing the learning. Like architects, teachers are the masterminds behind the design of learning experiences, but it's time we trust our students to be the builders of meaning. An architect doesn't swing a hammer at the construction site. Their role is to understand who they're designing for. What are their needs and preferences, and draft a blueprint. Similarly, teachers must deeply understand their students. What are their skills and abilities, and create learning experiences that strive to remove obstacles, provide meaningful choices, and position students to construct meaning with their own hands and minds. To enable teachers and students to make these crucial shifts, we need to invite one more group to the table, the school leaders. They possess the unique ability to loosen the tight laces of the suffocating educational corset that stifles teacher creativity, ensnaring them in endless cycles of content coverage and grading. Leaders must give teachers the green light to reimagine their approach and the support to cultivate more modern and flexible instructional practices. Leaders also have the power to liberate students from their roles as silent spectators mindlessly consuming content. And leaders must communicate the value of these shifts to students and their families, freeing education from the constricting confines created by outdated notions of what teaching and learning look like in action. The great news is that we can begin this rewarding journey today. Teachers can capitalize on their creativity and the technology in their room to shift students to the center of the learning experience where they belong. And let's not forget, our students are capable of anything with the right support. It's time to embark on an educational reimagining to ignite curiosity, foster connection, re-engage teachers, and cultivate lifelong learners excited to enter a world brimming with possibilities. I know this doesn't feel easy. In education, we're often focused on all of the problems. But in the words of my favorite children's book, What Do You Do with a Problem? By Kobe Yamada, quote, "My problem held an opportunity. It was an opportunity for me to learn and to grow, to be brave, to do something. Every problem has an opportunity for something good. You just have to look for it." Thank you.